And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob. I haven't been doing too many YouTubes. I've already done 2,000. I would suggest you go and take a look because they're all pretty prophetic. So, all around is wars and rumors of wars. And there are a lot of people seeing abnormalities of normalcy. Well, if you really take a good look at things, what is normal? Nothing has ever been. The mega motif, make America great again. Well, it was never great. It was just what it was, moment to moment. Now, if you were making it great, then it was great. If it wasn't, it wasn't, right? And that's pretty much life, you know? I a lot of people could look at my life and say, "Oh, it's not too bad. He's like living in the woods in a shack." And yeah, but it's pretty out there. Well, it's getting cold. Well, you know, global warming, right? A guy named Art Bell, another guy named Whitley Strieber wrote a book called The Day After Tomorrow. And it was made into a movie, which is quite good. And I think it was in the late 70s, early 80s when it was made. And it too is pretty prophetic because if you see what they were talking about, yes, things got warmer and warmer. People saying, "Oh, this is bad. We have to watch out for this." And the powers that shouldn't be kind of ignored it because they were busy making money and didn't want to be bothered. And but what really occurred was when all of that ice starts to melt up there above Nova Scotia, and it brings really, really, really pure, unsalty water into the Atlantic. Um, you will find that there is this thing called the Caribbean train. There are these vortexes right up there that bring all the warm water from Africa down along South America, down along the Gulf of Mexico, down along the east coast of America, and then over to Europe. And that's why people in England and Sweden and Norway and Russia, the Baltics, all can kind of survive. If that train were ever to stop, basically all of that area would turn into the North Pole. I mean, it would be really, really cold and, not get warm, no food, no growing anything. And, it would be, really, really, really cold. So that's something. And that train is slowing down because there's more and more real fresh water going in there. And in the United States, the replacement rate has gone backwards. Um, you know, with each decade, people were living longer and longer. Now they're not. Now they're dying earlier and earlier, right? Diabetes, heart disease, all the rest, right? And then I'm just your Sensei Bob here to tell you a story, but and don't believe a word I say. And thank you very much for the few people who have put something in my PayPal. It still works, so I could really use it right now. I don't have a car. And, I live on about $110 for food, right? And now when it gets cold, I don't really use too much energy in the summer, spring, and fall. About 10 weeks of the winter, you know, I can have to use about $100 worth of energy to not die. Um, but, I've died 7 times already. I kind of know what it's about. Um, I have a lot of time on my hands, so I've been writing my novels. And I was thinking, all these novels are like up in the cloud and on my laptop, and what happens if all of this just stopped? All of my great creativity would go out the window. But see, it doesn't matter because the novel I'm writing is a love story between me and God, right? So God knows it, and then you have to realize about the Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost, right? One God, three parts. And these are mysteries, way beyond our page, at least way beyond my pay rate. But I can feel that love, and it's not. Everyone wants to anthropomorphize everything, make it human. Nothing is. There's if you study physics, you start to realize that we probably are in some sort of, um, you know, what would you call it? A matrix, a sim, a simulation. I mean, this is like a multiplayer video game that we're living in, right? So, and AI came out of the technology of video games. So, it's a very interesting time to be awake, aware, consciously intent. Too bad the majority of the population isn't. They're too caught up in things that don't matter, right? The football game, how many hot dogs they can eat, how much booze they can consume, drugs, sex, who they can hate, who they can envy, right? We were given 10 commandments. Maybe we should just, I think starting off with two, um, the one of, thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. I think that's a good one. The other good one is don't covet anything. And so, yeah, I can speak of near-death experience since I've experienced it. Buddha said that death is like slipping out of a tight slipper. No big deal, right? And, so I died when I was a child, which was very interesting because it gave me this point. And I remember everything from, from conception, not just birth, conception, right? And I remember that there were two of me before that, were stillborn, right? Because my mom was smoking so much tobacco and drinking so much. I mean, that was her form of birth control. So she was addicted to nicotine and alcohol. She liked getting a buzz. She was a party girl. And once, she achieved the lifestyle she wanted through my father. And she was only 40 when that happened. So what's she going to do with the rest of her life? Everything up to it, she was like a conqueror of worlds, and now she was comfortable. She had not, she did not do anything. She had servants and et cetera, et cetera. She did not do anything. So, but she still liked to bang, So I remember, being those other two. My spirit was in those other two. Bang, first one dies, second one dies, third one is a charm. I come out, but I come out, with the umbilical wrapped around my neck, and two moron doctors trying to pull me out with salad tongs, about to pop my head off like a tick. I remember all of that. And then my guardian angel, Dr. Black, comes in, kicks them out of the delivery room, pushes me back into my mother's uterus, puts her on nitrous oxide, which kind of mellowed my mom out. She took the cigarettes. My mom was smoking cigarettes when she was having me. So were the doctors. All that time, they knew tobacco was deadly, right? But they didn't even mention it. Right? It wasn't until the 60s that people started saying, when once the insurance company started seeing the rates and people were having, insurance, so they get a big check when they die. Anyway, um, and so I was born quite a sick little kid, and I was sick until I was 10. And around my birthday, I would get sick, usually get pneumonia or croup or tonsillitis or something like that, something that would knock me down with a fever and, kind of like, ooh, seeing things. And, you know, spring, summer, fall, I was okay. I was that little peanut, right? And my grandma took care of me. And when I was with my grandma, I did, between age two-ish to about 7, I never really got sick. I mean, I might get a little cough or something, but she took really good care of me. But 7, when I was 7, I went back to my parents. I went right back to that root. So what was that root? Um, that illness was more or less psychologically dynamic, and not so much per se um, for my parents or my family, my fellow rutabagas and brothers and sisters. No, it was more of a longer distance, a life thing, because all those people who were in my biological family were things left over from past lives, right? And when I was a youngster with my grandmother, in New York City, amazing cultured place, and my grandma would walk me 100 blocks, to build my strength up and my lungs up. And we would go visit museums. We go into all the cathedrals. We would visit all of the, uh, you know, theological schools up there where we were, up in the Upper West Side, up where Thomas Merton put the. He took this kind of place that was in Europe, brick by brick, and brought it to the Upper West Side. I forget what they called it. It'll pop into my mind. But anyway, so I had a really interesting exposure, and I had, a godfather who was a cardinal, Cardinal Cushing. So I got to play around in the bowels of uh, St. Patrick's on Fifth Avenue. Man, there's so much stuff under there. They talk about the Vatican Library and the Vatican, tombs underneath St. Patrick's. It's like, and it's right across the street from Rockefeller Center, where that Greek god holding up the earth is right across. I mean, straight from that, modern-esque Neoplatonic statue of this guy holding up the earth on his back is like straight to the front door of St. Patrick's. And straight through the front door is straight to where the big cross above the altar is Jesus Christ. I mean, they were like lined right up. You think that is just a circumstances? Oh, look at that. That's a coincidence. There are no coincidences. So, by the time I was 10, I had, danced with death a good deal. And I would see him, and he was always dressed in a undertaker's suit, and it kind of looked like, he had a jack-o'-lantern head with a really strange toothy smile. And he would kind of dance in the room when I was really sick, and I'd look at him, and he would look at me and smile and say, "Not today, son," and walk away. So when I was 10, I really got sick, and I ended up in a hospital. And those nuns were, there are 60,000 sects of Christianity in the United States. That means there's 60,000 Christian religions in the United States. And that goes for the Catholic Church. There are a lot, the Franciscans, Jesuits, you name it. Some really nice ones like the Maryknoll's, really smart, really serving Jesus' unconditional forgiveness and God's unconditional love. But then there's, the Jesuits who want to own everything, and the Franciscans who want to control everything and know everything. So it's so by the age 10, I had some real insights, been exposed to some pretty amazing people like Billy Kluver. He was the version of me that was working for the CFR, right? And there were some great scholars at the CFR. The guy who wrote Hope and Tragedy, Dr. Quigley, right? And another guy who wrote None Dare Call It Conspiracy, Gary Allen, and a whole bunch of others. And, Billy Kluver, basically, he was a brilliant physicist, mathematician, total radio freak. And he was part of the RAD lab during World War II, radar and all that. So he was Mr. Microwave. So he took one of those microwave horns, the listening part of the microwave of radar, and he pointed up into space, and he discovered the background radiation of the universe. Not him alone, but he was the guy who, hey, why don't we do this, right? And then there were all the other guys who took the credit. Because Billy, by that time, he was, like I said, he was like me. He went on to something else. He was the guy who brought modern and great art to America. Before America, all we had was before him, all we had was Grandma Moses. In the 20s, he was in Europe studying at the Sorbonne, and he bumped into all these great artists, and he brought them all back and had a show in the Armory, which was in Midtown, where all the rich businesses were. And they had this armory that was left over in the Civil War. But, after the Civil War, they just used it for events like flower shows and lectures and things like that. So he had to, his parents were rich enough and he had enough pull. And so he did an art show there that brought all of that to America, right? And that, where the armory was, when they took the armory down, they put up the Museum of Modern Art right there. And then about 40 years later, they built condos on top of them. Museum of Modern Art had a beautiful little, in the back middle of the museum was an outdoor garden that that they had a little coffee shop and restaurant. You could, after looking at everything, and you could have the catalog of the show. You could sit there and have a nice little nosh and a really nice cup of coffee. My grandma and I would do that all the time. And all the museums in New York were kind of taken care of by the rich people, because they were mostly their collections and mostly their big houses that became a museum. And like the Whitney and the Pace and the Met, those were all rich people's. That was J.P. Morgan's house. So anyway, we would go there, and the rich, put money in a trust to run those things, and basically this little pin that you had to kind of cough up, but my grandma write up things so she could have access to places. So we just put our pin on and go into these museums and see the show. And all these people knew my grandmother. Oh, Mrs. D, how you doing? Princess, Queen, how you doing? So that's why I call women Princess and Queen, because my grandma was one. And my mother was King. She had more cojones than any guy I ever saw. So in reality, every time we go to sleep, we die. Read Blake, and he talks about it, right? And in my novels, I talk about it a great deal. And in my novels, I, pretty much all the great writers say, hey, I didn't think this stuff up. I got it from the Greeks. I got it from the Romans. I got it, from the Bible. I got it from other great philosophers. Me too. And every time I, hijack an idea or just cut and paste, like, James Joyce called himself a cut and paste man, right? And he would cut things out of book and paste them in his little notebooks. And he didn't have, like I do, I have a little laptop that I can cut and paste. And so, um, but how I do it is I write my novels, all the stuff I pick up and put into the threads of the storyline, and that's what griots do. Um, you know, I take that character, I take Homer or Freud or, you name it, Robert Burton, anything that I'm quoting, and I put them, don't just take the quote, I put it, that character there is in part of the conversation of, the storyline, right? And so, anyway, um, my X-rated series, right? It's 18 novels, and the first 5 I've written, and now I'm like word sculpting. So the first one, which was the last, was Legacy. So that's the first, right? The second one, which was last, is Death, right? That was number 2. Because when you're born into death. The only thing you can depend on is you're going to die. That's it. So and you don't have the past or you don't have the future. All you have is the moment. So that's where we are right now. And there's all this stuff going on, pandemics and disease and economic crashes and wars and rumors of war and, you know, weather related catastrophes and earthquakes. Poor little Afghanistan is like in a bowling alley. And if you don't think any of this stuff is, manipulated by Tesla technology, Tesla developed all this stuff. He had drones in the 1890s. He went to the War Department. In those days, at least they were honest. They go to the War Department. And he showed them that he had this nice little drone that he could put out into the Atlantic Ocean, and it would, work off of scalar energy. Didn't need to burn coal or oil or anything or have batteries, and would just kind of, and would be semi under the water, so you couldn't really see it, and it would go do, and when it saw an enemy coming into our sea lanes, it would go and blow it up. Right? Give it a warning first, and then blow it up. And it wouldn't take any people. It could stay out there forever. It would protect us. It would give us a shield. And he said, I also have one for airplanes. And this is in the 1890s. And he showed them all the patents. He showed them all the blueprints. He showed them working. He demonstrated them in the boat pond of the Central Park. That was his little test bed. And they came and saw it, and the smart guy said, "Yeah, this will work." But the other guy said, "Well, no, what if we do this? It'll make war obsolete. We won't have, we'll be at peace. We can't have that." So they said, "Gee, thanks, Nick, but no thanks." But what is this death ray thing? Right? What is this? You almost caused Lower Manhattan to fall apart. What was that earthquake thing? 1890s. Now go read Man Out of Time, Margaret Cheney's Man Out of Time, best book on Tesla. I don't know if we can even find it anymore. And so I knew her back in the day, and virtually every other friggin' book about Nikola Tesla is straight up. They're just ripping her off, and they don't even give her any tip of the hat. So my whole life has been surrounded by great people, some that are somewhat famous and some that aren't. And I saw the ones that were famous, and they were like in a gilded cage. I said, I don't want that. I saw ones who were ridiculously wealthy. They were in a platinum cage, right? All waiting to die. And my parents, once they made it, and my parents didn't make it so bad, a few million bucks. In the '08 collapse, I got rid of all of my investments, all of my properties, except for three I liked. The school, my Florida fishing cabin, and the Keys, and the Deep Green, right? And and then and I kind of liquidated all my assets and put them into things that could deal with a storm. And basically, when it came, it was fine, not a problem. But my father lost three-quarters of his net worth in 3 days. What took him, 4 decades to make his real estate. I said, Dad, get rid of this real estate. I mean, people are offering you millions of dollars for this stuff. Just sell it, downsize, get a nice little place someplace else. Oh, no, I like being in this big fancy house. I said, but it's just you and Mom. I mean, and, she already fell down because the place is so big. She can't go up and down the stairs. But my dad was my dad. He wanted, everything about him was, on the surface. I mean, he was a deep guy. I mean, he made art. I got my parents once I became an artist, and I was part of the New York City Arts League. I got them into. I got this great friend of mine, um, Liz Frizz, and she was a great art teacher. And I brought my parents there, and my parents loved it. Right. And my dad really shined. He was like, "Whoa, I can actually do this stuff pretty cool, and I can be creative. Wow, this is great." My mom, she's kind of the triple Capricorn. But she did it, and my mom was a person, and I have a bit of this in me. When she perfected something, when she was mastered it, then she got bored. She went on to the next, right? And at a certain point, she just, again, I have a good portion of her in me. Me too. I'm out here in the deep green watching the grass grow. And I find a great deal of peace and joy of watching Mr. Bunny and Miss Butterfly fly around. But God keeps saying, "Oh no, I brought you back, and you got stuff to do, and you're doing it." And I do. You know, these three churches I'm part of, and I think the most fun thing I did this year was the Baptists were having a big revival, right? So I got the Catholics and the Methodists to come, and when the people were coming down the aisle to speak in tongues and roll around on the carpet and be saved, Catholics and Methodists came and did that too. It was like kind of fun to watch. And the priest and the bishop of our didn't like that, and the Methodist bishop didn't like that. So I kind of like was told not to do that again. And I could come to their church, but they all said you had to pick. You can't come to three different churches. You got to pick one. And I took the one that was closest to me. The one I kind of liked the people better. And that's the one I kind of went to, the Baptist one, because it's closer to me. I mean, they're all the same. They're all about 20 miles away in different directions, right? But the Baptists come and get me. you know, Catholics, medicine, they're not going to do that. So anyway, so I do things like that. So, but those other churches still want me. Once I learned I was, a fix-it kind of guy. They had me fix things in their churches. They had me fix, I said, okay, enough of that. I'll fix things of the people in your church who are poor. I'll fix, grandma's heating system or her air conditioning or her electricity or etc. And so I did. That's what I pretty much did all summer. And that was very nice until my car blew up. So I can't go anywhere. So the only people who will come and get me to do stuff is the Baptists. So, and they're quite nice until, but they have these, you really, like I said, there's 60,000 sects of Christianity, and these guys are one of them, and they have their own worldview. So, and it has nothing to do with the Bible. I mean, I'm a real Bible, so I really like Bible studies, right? And I like the way they do it because they have this kind of thing that some Christian publishing company sets out, that you study a portion of, Daniel or Exodus or whatever, and they put forth, the points I think are important, and but you can still, and that's the beauty. The Bible is 66 books, and they're all of them are no more than, Exodus was pretty long, probably the longest, and so is the first one, and then the other ones they get shorter and shorter until you get to new thing, and then it's all Paul. It's the Paul show, New Testament. But what's interesting is that the Old Testament, about four, at least what I've counted, but I bet you there are more, there's 400 direct things saying about Jesus Christ in the Old Testament, right? So the Baptist crew that I hang with, they're really good at picking apart all that stuff, and they really appreciate my point of view. But when they get really stuck into something, I can't question it. You see, this, we had this one little thing, and I basically was making sense, logic, and quoting, the Bible. And the guy, the minister said, "Shut up." You know, the elder is teaching, and the elder was 30 years old. I'm almost 80. I look like Methuselah. This guy's got all his hair. And so I said, no, I don't have to prove anything. So I just sat there. So since then, all I do, I don't speak. I just come to church and pray. And the Baptists don't have a thing to kneel on. They don't think you should kneel. Me, I'm a slave. I'm a doula to God. And in Greek, the word doula means slave, meaning everything you have is in service, right? So everything I have is in service to God's unconditional love. And the only way you can get to that unconditional love is through Jesus's unconditional forgiveness. So that's me. And so, I'm having a good old time doing that. And so here we are, 32 minutes into the show. And how much battery do we have? About 20 minutes. And what time is it? I need to do some things. I was brought here by someone, and so I can't make them wait. I have to go meet them. So I just wanted to touch base. I'm not going to do too many of these. It would be nice if you could give me some thumbs up. No thumbs up. Two of you watching. No thumbs up. Be nice if people make comments about what I said today, right? And it would be nice if someone put something into my PayPal, right? But the interesting thing, since I lost my car, and I'm and basically I heard from God, instead of doing that, the child is screaming, like, it's not getting what it wants. And that's what the majority of humanity does. They never get past that. Anyway, God said, don't worry about it. I got you covered. It'll be better. And it is, because that's one less thing I have to worry about, right? Since March, the automotive guys have been taking about $300 a month, fixing this, fixing that, getting my car ready for winter. And I kept saying, listen, boys, I don't know anything about a car. Every time I take it to you, I want you to check everything, the lubricants, the this, the that, and everything that could go wrong, you take. Well, they didn't. And then my engine blew up. Oh, it was your coolant system. I said, I was telling you that there was a leak somewhere. There was a little lake in the floorboard, and they said, oh, well, you owe us $700. You can't have your car. And my attitude is, okay, you hold on to it for a while. I'll pay you what I can pay you. And I will, you know. But I only have $400 a month, and it's going to get cold, so I'm going to have to take that $100 or so that I would put towards my car every month. I'm going to have to put, into keeping me warm. So it'd be nice if you put something in a PayPal, right? But if I freeze to death, the electricity goes out. I've been here 23 years in this neck of the woods. And the electricity for 18 years has gone out 4 times. Right? Since rich people come, they don't know how to drive. And we only have one county road, and it's like through a sawtooth mountain range. And they smash into the telephone pole and take out the power. This summer, over 26 times we lost power. Now, our utility is pretty good. They get out there and they put another pole up and string the stuff back in about 6 to 8 hours. And, as I drive on that road, I go, look, there's the new pole. Oh, look, that's where the car hit, and it smashed into the power line. So this winter, this summer, about 12 outages. Since the cockroaches have come here, about 20-some outages. Right? And I know the guys who are the linemen, and they're really like, and so it's this winter, if that continues, I don't think it will, because the cockroaches can't stand being here in the winter, so they'll go to Florida or back to California or Texas. But if that happens, the only thing that keeps me warm is my electric blanket. So, and it's quite nice. It's back. It was in upper 30s last night. But in that electric blanket, it is nice. And it makes, in the man cave, it was 50. It was about 38 outside, and it was 50 inside. And under the electric blanket was a good 70 at least, if not a little warmer. But, if you don't send any money, I'll be dead. I'll come and visit you at night. I will be the bump in the night, in your dreams. That's why this show's called Dreamy Dreamland. Yes. So, you'll see, I would suggest you go and look at the shows. And those that you like, I would suggest you put it on your hard drive. If they can take Chris Hedges off of YouTube. But see, I do this show as a shamanic motif. It's a ceremony. It's an energetic. That's why so many of you love to just have it play in the background as wallpaper. It's a shamanic wallpaper. Let's see who's. Hi there, Janie. Oh, Jamie. Building as usual. Okay. It's always fun. So, if you can something to PayPal, that'd be really nice. If you could throw some thumbs up, that'd be really nice. If you could make some comments, that'd be really nice. Tell people about the show. Go take some of these shows and put them on your hard drive. Your top 10, right? The ones you really like, the ones that really had an effect on you. So anyway, remember, death is no big deal. I've already done it 7 times. I'm getting better and better at it. And I just went to my doctors, and they said, man, you are sick as a dog, but you're the healthiest sick guy I've ever seen. How do you do that? You should be alive. because I'm here because God wants me here. No other reason. And I'm pleased as punch to be God's doula and Jesus's bud. His little loyal puppy dog. That's me. Okay. Talk to you guys later.